Hello and welcome to the first legislative breakfast of the 2026 series, sponsored by Vermont's North Country Chamber of Commerce. This first breakfast here is sponsored by Built by Newport and Dave LaForce. They're a prominent employer and it's supportive of the Newport business scene, and they're also prominent members in the council, and they've been in the business for many, many years, employing lots of people. I'd also like to thank the East Side for putting this on, all of the attendees and representatives who braved the roads out here today, and also NEK-TV for showing up here, and for the members of the media who may not even be here right now, but they'll watch it on YouTube down the road and then report on it. So thank you to everybody. The format of this, for those who don't know, every representative by seniority will come up and be allowed 6 minutes to speak in this one. In future ones, they may be given a few more minutes. At the end of all the representatives speaking, they'll be opened up for questions where people can come here and ask questions. They'll be moderated so they're not going on and on and on all day. So that being said, our first and most senior, we start with the senators. So Senator Russ Ingalls will be the first one to speak. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for everyone coming. This is what government's supposed to be. You come and you are able to ask questions, and we really appreciate this. We appreciate Dan in the chamber and Dan LaForce, who's actually doing a fantastic job in Newport and himself with his business being here, and him not being a resident here, but you wouldn't know that. He's done some fantastic things as far as in coming up with ideas about how we can better our downtowns, working closely with us, but namely Mike Marcotte as well. So yeah, thanks to them. This year is going to look a lot like last year. We are focused on affordability, public safety, education, and housing. They are all taking their own tolls as far as who's at the top of the order. Education probably right now because of the failure of the committee that was appointed to draw maps, punted. So we still have the framework of Act 73, which is to make education more affordable and receive better results in the state of Vermont. That is going to take up a lot of time. We are, again, affordability is very large. We're $1.9 billion more than what we ought to be when we look at our budgets from COVID times and adjust for inflation to where we are right now. And the reason being is that there was a lot of programs and positions that were stood up during COVID times with COVID dollars that were supposed to go away when those monies went away, and they haven't gone away. They've been baked into the budget. So that's very problematic. We are public safety. I have to applaud the governor for taking the initiatives. One of the I'm sure Burlington doesn't want to be known as this, but one of the problem areas that we're having is in Burlington. Church Street is a mess, to allow state police to go on their own time and paid for by Burlington to patrol Church Street mainly, but also the greater part of the city to bring safety and responsibility and reliability back to law enforcement is a great thing. And also, he stood up a brand new court to address chronic repeat offenders that have just taken up so much time in the system. I'm sure that we will probably see some more of that. Talking with Farzana, our prosecutor here. It is an issue in the state of Vermont, public safety. I think that she was juggling 9 murders in Orleans County alone. And some of those have probably been resolved, but, drugs are probably definitely the main factor for that. But I'm probably getting pretty close to 6 minutes. There's a lot of people to speak. Feel free to ask any questions. Thank you for coming, and we're always reachable. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Senator Ingalls. That was definitely not a Senator Starr talk.
We've been warned. We've seen how you went to the
Oh, yeah.
I'm not ready to retire.
Well, and now this is a first time for Senator John Morley. We'd like to welcome him.
Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome, Doug.
Appreciate that. So I just got appointed a little while ago. I've served a total of 4 days down in the legislature on committee. I'm on the Healthcare and Welfare Committee and also Government Operations. One thing that continues to plague the state, in my opinion, is the healthcare system, and also, if you listen to the State of the State address, had to do with property tax issues and reform. And so those are going to be two of the big topics that I believe the legislature is going to be looking at and trying to contend with this session. The governor has pretty much told the legislature you will be dealing with this one way or the other. I think he has concerns with the increases in property taxes across the entire state of Vermont. It's supposed to go up approximately 12% or something like that this coming year, and he knows, and I think we all know, that that's unsustainable. So that's probably the primary issue down in Montpelier. The other issues that I'm hearing a lot about are on health care, and I'm in that committee. And one of the big issues are the ACA subsidies that were coming in to all the states and may not be, although there's some discussion in Washington, D.C. right now on whether or not there will be in the future. So dealing with that, and also $195 million that's coming into the state for rural hospitals is another issue I'm hearing a lot about. Also, the cost of drugs. There's some bills down there around that. There's going to be a health care omnibus bill that the governor is going to present to the House Health Committee, and then it's going to come over to the Senate. And so there's a lot of issues surrounding that as well. I'd say the third issue that seems to be relevant, that keeps being focused on me anyways, and it's because I think I help run a small electric utility, are also electric utility rates in the state of Vermont. And the Department of Public Service, Commissioner Carrick Johnson's predicted that electric utility rates are going to go up 20% by 2030. And I'm seeing a lot of rate increases coming in that are being filed at the Public Utilities Commission. And most of them are being approved, and that tells me, and I know for a fact, that basically that they're justifiable. And so what's happening in the state with electric rates is there's a big push to get away from CO2 emissions, and so the policy of the state of Vermont has become more and more renewable, and with that tends to sometimes comes increased costs, and also they're pushing and promoting electrification. So if you have higher cost of power and also more demand for power, your electric utility costs are going to be going up. And so I hear a lot from businesses and also consumers on that front. Dan, I'm all set. No, yeah, I am. I'm willing to, I just want to make sure I answer your folks' questions, and if you don't have the opportunity to talk up here, please grab me afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Morley. Our first representative up will be the senior representative in our group here, and that will be Representative Mike Marcotte.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you to the Chamber. Thank you for Dave LaForce and Built by Newport for sponsoring this breakfast, and thank you for people that are here braving the weather that we have today. Apparently it's not unusual this year. We're having a real Vermont winter this year. I serve on the House Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. I've been there since I started, this is my 22nd year. I chair the committee. I can tell you this year that our priorities will be trying to pass a data privacy bill, also looking at an AI bill as well, to try to pass that. I think one question that we have right now that I've asked the Legislative Council to look at is the President's executive order pretty much telling the states that they have no business dealing in AI. And I think preliminarily, from what I'm told, is that if that ever went to court, it would probably be found unconstitutional, that the states have the right to make sure that their citizens are protected. So that's another thing we'll be looking at. And the third thing that we'll be really taking a deep dive in is on the education bill. Our part of that bill is career technical education. Over the fall, with Senator Rom Hinsdale, my vice chair as well, and others, we've been going around the state talking to career centers. We went to Middlebury, we were at Green Mountain Tech in Hyde Park. We also went to St. Johnsbury and to Springfield. Just talking to career technical education directors, talking to the public, whoever came in, teachers, students. And something, the light bulb, I think, for me really went off when we were in St. Johnsbury. Looking at St. Johnsbury Academy, they really have a comprehensive, integrated system where their tech center is integrated with their high school. And that's something I think that we really need to focus on. And when we look at the task force report, I know there's a lot of issues there, but I think I believe it's addendum 4, they talk about regional high schools or regional schools. And after looking at the tech center in St. Johnsbury, it really occurred to me that that's the focus that we should be looking at, is how do we integrate technical education, change the governance so everything in the high school is focused on total education. We do away with, the high school part of it, where we're trying to get either kids to college or get them through school, and then we send them off to the career center if they want to learn something, learn a trade. Why aren't we integrating that? Why can't we have our guidance counselors well-versed in the totality of education in the schools? So that's something that we're really going to take a look at and have discussions with the administration and continue discussions, of course, with our healthcare committee. We're thankful that Representative Harpel sits on that committee. I don't envy her at all. Did I say healthcare? I'm sorry. Must get caught up with Senator Morley's discussion of healthcare. But the education committee as well, we'll be working with them. So overall, I think it's going to be a difficult session. Housing, healthcare, education are, I think, 3 biggest areas that we have to deal with. And before I go, I just want to announce that I will not be a candidate this year for the seat that I've had for the last 22 years. I do want to thank all my constituents for their support over these years. It's been a job, but it really wasn't a job. It's been an education. It's been like I've been in college for the last 22 years. I really enjoyed it, but I think it's time for me to step aside and let someone else take over. And I think, as Dan said, I'm the senior, and I am a senior. And I think, if it hadn't been for my wife, I wouldn't have been able to serve down in Montpelier. And I think it's time for her to retire too. She's had enough. So it was a joint decision that we made. And so again, thank you to all my constituents. And I look forward to retirement, I think, in the next evolution of my life. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Marcotte. Our next representative will be Representative Woody Page.
Well, thank you, Dan. I just want to say, Mike, you've been a real asset to the city of Newport when Newport was your district. Now you're in another district, but you're still looking out after Newport, and also looking out after me and advising me down there. So I just want to say thank you, and you will be missed, your knowledge and your expertise down there. I have been assigned to the healthcare committee for the past year, and that has changed now. I've recently been appointed to the Ways and Means Committee, which will be trying to find money to pay for all the things that we enjoy, transportation, paving, and first and foremost will be the education bill, Act 73. And these past few days down there, 4 days, we've been looking at some of the things that are coming out from the federal government. Corporate taxes, personal taxes. How are we going to fund 73 if it actually goes through? So I really can't tell you anything more about what's going on down there in the Ways and Means Committee. In healthcare, I will tell you that everyone is concerned with the federal subsidies for insurances and whether Congress will do anything to help those individuals that rely on them. We just don't know yet. Senator Morley also mentioned, the hundreds of millions of dollars that we're getting. I've heard anywhere from $191 to $197 million in the next 5 years. I've looked at some of their proposals, and my personal opinion is, and it's supposed to help rural health care, and I have some questions whether it actually does in the long run. But that's my opinion, and maybe you'll find something different in that plan. And as you know, those of you that have watched the governor's presentation last week on the state of the state, his emphasis was on education and the reforms. And he's concerned about the high costs of reforms, and he's threatened the legislature that we're not going to be leaving until we do something regarding education. That has a lot of folks upset that, the governor would take that stance, but, I think it's such a serious matter that he really had to emphasize how important it was that the legislature must do something this session. One other thing I would advise to look for is next week on Friday is the Emergency Board Consensus Revenue Forecast. That's going to be very telling how much money we're actually expected to make for the state of Vermont going forward next year in the fiscal budget. So that's all I have. Again, we have the same issues: healthcare, education, housing, transportation, all those things. And it really is a perfect storm right now with all the concerns that everyone has. During COVID, we had a great deal of money, and it seems in some ways that we've squandered that money that was here for all of us. We didn't really save a lot for that rainy day, which is now here, and the perfect storm that we're now facing. Seems kind of pertinent when we look outside and we see the storm weathers and the storm clouds here, and that's what we're going to be facing down in Montpelier this next year. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Page. Our next representative up will be Representative Leanne Marple. Thank you.
We are a Maple State.
You got maple syrup on the brain.
Hi, so Leanne Harple. I sit on the Education Committee. This is the second half of my first biennium, and I'm really glad to be there. And like everyone has said so far, education is going to be a really big topic in Montpelier this year. So the first thing that we're doing is trying to wade through the different findings of Act 73. For those of you who have been following the task finding report, that's created a lot of controversy. The task finding report basically found that they don't consider that mass mega district force consolidation is going to save us money. This is not a position that the governor or the secretary of education shares. I'll say that right now. And so that's going to definitely be a heavy discussion this session. What they recommended instead was what we're calling CESAs. So CESAs, this gets a little bit into the weeds, but before we talked about BOCES, which were Boards of Cooperative Education, and now we're talking about CESAs, which are very similar, but they're Cooperative Education Service Areas. So what those would do essentially was that they would create 5 districts, but not school districts, 5 cooperative districts that would share contracts and other services related to transportation, administration, special ed, mental health, other places that districts could share. And the premise is that that would save money and that there would be some incentives built in over the next 10 years for schools to voluntarily merge or districts to merge. So that's the conversation that's playing out. It's absolutely true that the governor has said that he won't sign a budget this year that does not include a plan for consolidating districts. So we're going to see how that showdown goes. I will be part of that conversation. I don't want to necessarily say at this point who is right or wrong. I can tell you that over the last week, we've already heard a lot of testimony from the Vermont Principals Association, the Vermont Superintendents Association, the Vermont NEA, the Secretary of State, the Task Force, the Future of Education Commission, and of course at the State of the State address, the governor himself. So we are really listening to everyone's data at this point and their findings. One of the things that I think that no one's denying is that the health benefits for public school employees are the largest cost driver. And until we can figure out both as a state and as a nation how we want to deal with that, a lot of what we're going to do is not going to have the impact that we're really looking for. Health benefits for public school employees now exceed over $300 million annually, and they're approaching $400 million annually. This is a cost that schools have very little control over. And so that's why it's becoming so complicated to look for other ways. We also are really looking carefully at what consolidated districts would mean for kids in rural area riding the buses. Kids with the lowest incomes are usually the ones that are bused the farthest. And so we want to make sure that whatever we're creating is going to be equitable for our rural kids. We're dealing with minimum class sizes. They have been set as they were in Act 73, but currently only one district in the entire state is actually prepared to meet the minimum class sizes that were set in Act 73. So that is somewhat problematic. It certainly is not right for rural areas, and it's right now a challenge that no districts except for one are meeting in Vermont. So that will be another part of the discussion. Additionally, we're going to be hopefully looking at early college legislation. I was really excited to hear Representative Marcotte's thoughts about tech and high school integration. I think that keeping more kids in high school, having them part of our community and having an integrated program and dollars stay in public high schools is a great thing. And changing the way that we do early college would do this as well. Right now, early college, which was definitely passed with the right intentions, is decimating our junior and senior classes. They're leaving for colleges. Their public school money is following them. So we're going to look at potential changes to that. I'm also working on a little bit of other legislation, including legislation that students at Governor's Institute have helped to write regarding student representation on school boards and representation on school boards by small towns. So it's been really exciting to watch students themselves get involved in the legislative process. I'm helping to deal with some healthcare legislation allowing pre-K to have stock epinephrine, which has been really exciting as well, because immediately a father reached out to me saying that if that law had existed, it would have saved his son's life. So I'm hoping that that'll be legislation that passes. Dealing with wastewater costs and land posting rules. Oh, and one that would be probably very exciting to Newport is we're going to be looking at PCB testing, and whether or not that is something that we want to continue, because it is an unfunded mandate that has created huge headaches, especially for North Country. A couple of plugs that I want to put in. We're going to be hearing from Northeast Kingdom kids on Northeast Kingdom Day at the State House, which is next Thursday, January 22nd. So our local kids are going to be testifying in front of the Education Committee. That's one of my favorite days in the State House. So that's pretty much the gist of what we'll be working on this year, and I'll be happy to answer questions about that later.
Thank you, Representative Harpel. Our next representative will be Representative Ken Wells.
Morning, everybody. Let's see, we're back in the winter here. I'm on Transportation Department. That's Orleans County District 3. $856 million. That sounds like a lot of money. It's not as much as you think. You repair bridges. You take care of the highways and infrastructure and interstates. You maintain railroads. You improve airports. We've just put $1.5 million in a new building at the Coventry Airport recently here. You send out 400 vehicles on days like this, 255 snow trucks and another 150 pickup trucks with plows. The money goes pretty quick. And with the price of equipment and everything else going up, we need more money. We're looking for new revenue streams. We've got a few ideas. Bills will be coming out in the next few weeks to try and impact that. Certainly what we don't want to do is go back to something we haven't done in 2 decades, and that would be to raise the gas tax. I realize the price of gasoline is down about 35 cents in Vermont. It's down a lot more than that around the country. I think it's down 70 cents in Florida. We don't want to do that because nobody wants to have their gas prices go up, even if it's only a few cents. 1 cent produces $2.5 million for our roads and stuff. It costs $1 million to tar one road. We took care of a few in this area. There's a couple projects in our White Book this year. One of the biggest ones that affects us would be from Barton to Hardwick. Hopefully that money's still there. We lost no money to the feds last year. Current administration did not touch that cash. We don't expect to do it again. The key is right now generating more. We have the 3rd most money down there in Montpelier, but again, $856 million, not as much as it used to be.
Thank you, Representative Wells. And our last representative here to speak will be Representative Richard Nelson. Thank you.
Son of a bitch, Kenny. Good morning, everyone. Sitting next to Dan has his advantages. Russ left 3.5 minutes on the table. John left 3.5 minutes on the table. Leanne used some of theirs, but I can talk a long time and stay inside our... to transportation, the one-eyed beast in this state has garnered $52 million from transportation. That's education. They did that a few years ago, and they moved $52 million from transportation over to fund education, probably for the short term. That is 200 millions, right, Ken?
It's more than that with a multiplier.
With a multiplier. With a federal multiplier, it's more than $200 million. That paves another 200 miles of road in this state. And Ken said a great impact was the road from Barton to Hardwick, Route 16. I think the biggest impact we had was getting the Derby-Newport Road paved this year, because that was absolutely horrendous. And it's a shame that if you want to be a town and grow your community, then have people driving on a road like that. I serve in House Agriculture Committee. We have a lot of ag issues coming up. I also am on the stakeholders group for the new water quality rules we passed last year with farm inspections and whatnot. We'll be bringing to get in compliance with the EPA mandates. So that's going well. We'll be bringing those ideas back to our respective committees just for a check off, I hope. I serve on the North Country School Board for 15 years. Wendy serves with me. We work hard up here to control spending. We really do. We really work hard up here to control our spending. The problem is CVU maybe doesn't. CVU has raised their taxes to the max. Our principal has asked their principal, why do you do that? And they said, because we can. And when CVU is 20% more per student spending with a much lower poverty rate, much lower weighted averages and whatnot, we pick up the difference in their taxes. There's no more gold towns in the state of Vermont. Remember when the Brigham decision passed, we had gold towns? There's no more gold towns. We all share that burden. So I'm really a proponent for the foundation formula. And I'd like to see it started at 75% of parity now. And if your town wants to be above it, if your town needs to be above it, because you want to be Woodbury and be a pre-K through 6 with 39 students in it, then your town can pick up the extra burden. I'm not going to tell Woodbury they need to close their school. We've closed 2 schools here, Morgan and Holland, because they were down to 42, 36 students. I don't know what kind of an opportunity those kids have in those 39 classroom student buildings. They can't even have breakout sessions for collaborations in group of 3 per class. It's about opportunities. The governor says it's for the students, it's for the staff. It's for the staff, to take care of the staff, to take care of our teachers. When they talk about redistricting, North Country SU has 13 buildings, 13 different schools. St. Johnsbury has 1. The high school doesn't count down there because that's an independent school. St. Johnsbury has 1. Canaan has 1. Now, Canaan's an outlier that educates their kids for about the same price as we do over here. They do a wonderful job. And they're an outlier. We're not going to bus kids 50 miles in any direction. Canaan's an outlier. St. Johnsbury is surrounded by 3 other districts, 1 building. Maple Run in St. Albans, 4 buildings. Franklin Northwest, 4 buildings. So there is room for consolidation. There is room to make these tighter. And when you look at the staff in those SUs, they're quite robust. And when you figure their wages along with their benefits, in state government, every employee we figure is $125,000 with wages and benefits. In the SUs, I'd be willing to bet that pales. I bet they're more than that. So you have an SU with 14 people on the payroll. Is it $2 million? Divided out over the cost of all their students. It's real money. So we have room in education to do the right thing and take care of our students and take care of our staff and take care of our communities. And I like what Mike says about the Career Center and working them in. North Country High School has always had a Career Center. It had one when I went there. It just wasn't called a Career Center. And I took college prep courses, and I was in Harold Haynes' production agriculture class. And they molded it so it worked for me and Alden Bowman. He took horticulture. But anyway, so we have a lot of work to do on education. We have a lot of work to do in healthcare, and I don't talk about it as much because I really can't wrap my head around it. It's, but when my health care, Susan and I pay our own health care, went from $300 a month to $1,976 a month, I told Susan, I said, if something don't change here by the 28th of January, we're going to be saving $300 a month because we're going to skate this baby alone. Anyway, and I will take questions from y'all later on. Thank you very much. Did I use any of their time?
Use a couple minutes. It's all right. They were there. So thank you, Representative Nelson. So this concludes the speaking part, and it begins the question and answer phase. I encourage people to come up and ask questions. When you come up, state your name and the town you're from, and then also you're allowed to have 1 or 2 sentences to lay the groundwork, and then please get to the question, or ask it in the form of a question like Jeopardy. So, thank you. So we'll begin with the questions. Who's going wants to be first? Okay, come on up.
Hi, Wendy McGilvery from Newport City, on the school board and also the executive director of NETO Weatherization. So I'm intimately familiar with the budgets for grant-funded and tax-funded organizations. I was really happy to hear that they're talking about the healthcare costs for education, and I'm just wondering, those of you on the healthcare, do you feel like enough focus is being put on that and the impact it makes on how much we're paying for healthcare for all the plow truck drivers and all of the state employees and all of the teachers and all of the people who are doing the good work? Do you feel like the sense of urgency is there? That should be. And also, do you feel like the state has steps that they can take that won't be dependent on the federal government?
Thank you for the question. So we'll open it up directly, and we'll start if Senator Russ.
I'm going to punt to Senator Morley.
Okay, so Senator Morley.
I hope this isn't going to be a theme, Senator. Great question. Remember, 4 days I've been there. But it is a theme. And it's not just the state employees, it's just not the education, it's not just the teachers, it's everybody. Remember, you're losing a lot of subsidies that are coming in to the state. So what I'm really concerned about is the implications that you're going to potentially have more uninsured or underinsured individuals in this state. And how are we going to handle that? This is a weird one. Healthcare is so complicated, and there's so many players involved in this game. I'm not accustomed to that, but what I'm learning is so far, we tend to try to reduce costs with regulation. Now, that's going to get me in a lot of trouble saying that. But what I'm noticing is, okay, you push the balloon in here, and it kind of pops out here. So we create more regulation to try to fix that. And it's a real concern of mine. It's not simply a supply and demand type thing. Vermont's population is getting older, fewer young people in. They're taking a look at community rating versus other ways of paying, trying to get younger people not to pay so much because they're going to drop out. There are tons of issues going on here. I don't know if I'm answering your question directly, but I'm trying to, and I'd be happy to sit with you and talk more about it. But healthcare is going to be a massive concern moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. That answer sounded like a lot more than 4 days.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
Mike, Woody.
I'll just say a couple of things. Based upon my knowledge from last year, the healthcare, mind you, the healthcare committee is serious about cutting costs, but as the Senator Morley mentioned, regulation. The Green Mountain Care Board is very much involved, particularly right now with UVM Medical Center and controlling costs. And it seems as though you've got, I'll be nice and just say, a contest between Blue Cross Blue Shield pointing their fingers at the UVM Medical Center for the high costs, and what the UVM Medical Center has done over the past year in giving themselves bonuses, and that's where the Green Mountain Care Board came in and started looking seriously at that facility and trying to cut those costs. So I do think they are serious. The treasurer just recently mentioned a program regarding costs for medications and trying to get individuals involved in this particular program. I don't remember the name of the company that he was promoting, but he's apparently has monies to help in that regard. The committee last year also looked at our other hospitals and trying to maintain costs, keep costs down for various services. And you see, in many ways, it's kind of like education. We're consolidating a lot of those services, like North Country and then the St. John's Bury Hospital, consolidating the services so each hospital doesn't have to put money into having separate services. So I think they're serious, and I think you're going to see more regulations in the coming year, frankly. And that may be a bad thing. You know, we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Thank you, Representative Page. Representative Harpel.
Hi. So yeah, on the Education Committee, we don't make a lot of the policy decisions that would directly lower healthcare, but there are a couple of things I can say that are coming up. One is that right now, statewide, we have our teacher and staff contracts for wages and salaries bargained locally, and we have a statewide contract for teacher healthcare. And so one of the things, I believe this was a recommendation either of the Vermont School Board, yes, it was the Vermont School Board Association, was saying that those should be combined into the same bargaining session, which could essentially have some impact on that. The Vermont NEA was also questioned on Friday on whether or not they would support statewide teacher healthcare being part of the same Vermont State Employees Association health pool. They did not give a direct response, but said, you know, that was an option that was on the table that would be considered that perhaps could lead to some lower costs, because the more people that you're insuring, the more that those group rates come in. So those are two things that are being talked about. I mean, the primary sort of thing that's being done right now is that there are teachers being cut, and with them goes their health care. So I know at the school that I am at, 7 teachers just got cut. I mean, that's a small drop in the bucket for any one teacher's health care. But that's sort of what we can control here on the Education Committee is what is the consolidation going to do for the amount of state employees we have, and then what could we agree to for how we combine that bargaining for healthcare. So I'm really counting on the Healthcare Committee to actually get us to national healthcare.
Thank you, Representative Harpel. Representative Nelson.
We were at a meeting last week, New Hampshire. Everyone says, how's New Hampshire do it? We ought to look at how New Hampshire does it. Their state budget's the same size as ours. The difference is theirs is a 2-year budget. Ours is 1. So they're spending half the money we are with more people and more revenue streams. New Hampshire's health care is way less than half of what ours is. They have more players in the healthcare field. And I don't know if that'd make a big difference, but it might help. I would defer to the experts in the health field. I really lean on talking to my people right here at our local hospital. I value their input. What I'm afraid of with the Green Mountain Don't Care Board, Copley Hospital has great orthopedics. they were cutting into UVM's orthopedics. So they got scolded and told they were making too much revenue. This is how it was told to me. So they cut back on their revenue, they got rid of their birthing center. Eden's a long way from everywhere, but it's pretty close to Morrisville. So that concerns me. That concerns me. But anyway, I think maybe we need more players and less regulation for healthcare in this state so people can afford it. I think they need to bring back the catastrophic plan. My son, who's 28 years old, can have a catastrophic plan. I'm 62. I can't. I'd like to have one with a robust HSA that would cover the minor stuff. I'd like a catastrophic plan if I have something major happen. Not planning on it, but I wear my seatbelt every day when I'm driving. One other thing that kind of ties in with healthcare and education now is the cost of the health services we're giving to our students that need it, the health and welfare services that we give to our students. And we're paying for that through our property taxes. And somebody needs to take care of these kids. It really is a service that needs to be provided. So, but perhaps it shouldn't be pinned into the cost of education, and it ought to come from the Health and Human Services Department in Montpelier. It's not going to reduce cost per se, but it's going to pigeonhole it where it belongs and not in education. And we really need to talk about that more in the building. So, thank you.
Thank you all. Senator Ingalls.
I didn't have an answer to that question, but a lot of what has been said, I just want to add some comment to. And Rep. Nelson touched on it a little bit. 19.8% of Vermonters' income goes to paying their health care. 4% in New Hampshire, 7.9% nationally. Those are huge numbers, and everybody says, "Well, it's hopeless that you can, make health care less expensive." Well, you can make health care less expensive. Senator Morley touched upon regulation and the Green Mountain Care Board, where the balloon, and it's a perfect analogy. There are times where businesses have to make money in some areas, and it might seem exorbitant, but that is to make up for the losses that they're covering in other areas, like the birthing center that has just been talked about. And I know UVM is a whipping board right now for the Green Mountain Care Board because they made too much money. They made $134 million by providing a service that was needed, and people willingly went there to get that service, and they made $134 million. Well, there were some bonuses that got passed out. Yeah, the Green Mountain Care Board does the same thing, except we don't know what those bonuses are because they won't let us out of their books. Green Mountain Care Board was created when a single payer was going to come, and they created this board to administer single payer. Well, when single payer went away and failed, crashed, and burned, they stayed, and they haven't been helpful. Since they've been there, they've driven out 7 insurance companies from the state of Vermont, which is what drives affordability when you have people competing for health insurance. So there are different things that we can do in healthcare. One of them is just get us closer to our neighboring states or the national average. And I don't know if the Green Mountain Care Board is really on board with that. But it is important. It is so important that we, in these outlying areas, have the healthcare systems that we have as far as North Country and NVRH and Copley Hospital. And they're under attack viciously and unfairly in a lot of different areas. As Senator Morley says, there's a lot of different players out there. We get these bills that come to us, and they sound so nice and they sound so great. Well, they just had a bill that came last year that just sounded so really, really great, and it was about having basically midwives deliver babies. And I think that, as much as anything, knocked out Copley's birthing center. And as the care centers will say, you know, that all sounds great until there's an emergency or a death or something that they need to come to. And where do they come to? They come to us. They come to the North Country hospitals, the NVRHs, and back to the Copley hospitals to save those babies' lives, hopefully. So there are a lot of different things that we can do. I apologize I couldn't answer the question, but with the conversation, I just thought I wanted to add a little context. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ingalls. Next question.
Morning, everybody. My name is Dan Kutzer. I'm from Newport City. And by way of context, I am the chair of the Vermont Commission on Native American Affairs, and I'm also a board member of the Land Access and Opportunity Board that operates at the state level. And so in both of those roles, I have a keen focus on minority populations and disadvantaged situations. And my question today is related to housing, or more specifically, lack thereof. One of the things that was said earlier really kind of rang a bell with me, which was to raise the question of, okay, oftentimes we've seen public safety mentioned as a way to remove tents and places where homeless people are trying to survive. And so my question here is, how do we go about balancing public safety with the right to actually stay alive?
Thank you, Mr. Kutu. Senator Ingalls.
Thank you. So homelessness, it's real. There are people who are suffering. There are people who are truly, truly homeless. But I really would like to get down to the root cause of it. And sometimes we can't get to that. We have a group right over here that's over the bank, down by the river. And they've been down there. The city police have been down there. State police have been down there. All the service has been down there. They don't want to do anything other than what they're doing. And that's truly where it is. They've been down there to offer them services. No, they don't want to do there. Why are they there? A lot of them have underlying issues. A lot of them have dependencies on substances. A lot of them have mental health problems and everything. I think one of the biggest failures that we did when we spent $700 million of COVID dollars in the homeless hotel programs is that the whole time that that program was in place, we weren't allowed to go in there and find out, why are you homeless? Why are you? Let us help you. Let us help you get better in any part of your life. And that was a missed opportunity. I do believe with all my heart that there are homeless people and that they've fallen on hard times. But I also believe that a lot of them will go out and seek help and try to get it so that they can be home, that they're not homeless anymore. I've had them over here on our properties over here. They're the same people that are packing up their tents and living where they can live, and they're not seeking any other type of opportunity for themselves. They are choosing to live the life the way they want to live, which is not helpful for them, not helpful to society, and not helpful to the people that they're camping on their land unwanted. So there's a lot of discussion that could be had on that, and I would ask everyone to be honest about what the problem is. Is it something that the state can solve, or is it something that the people who are homeless have to have some buy-in as well? Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ingalls. Senator Morley. Representative Page.
I'll just say, I think Newport is doing its best to try to help the homeless situation. We've just, it's my understanding, we've just stood up a kind of a homeless center and a former hotel here in Newport. So in a way, we are locally and within our community, we are trying to assist, and I'll just leave it there.
Thank you, Representative Page. Representative Marcotte. And apologize for out of sequence.
Woody's almost a senior too. The homeless situation is extremely complex. I think, as Senator Ingalls said, during COVID, we put a lot of money to make sure that the homeless population was sequestered like the rest of us, making sure that COVID wasn't being spread. I think some of the problem, then I think we've seen that our homeless population in the state of Vermont has ballooned. And, prior to COVID, we didn't have as many people homeless as we do now. And I think some of that problem occurred when states surrounding us, like New Hampshire, New York, Massachusetts, ended their program when has COVID relented. And we did not. We continued to supply dollars to the motel-hotel program. And I think we saw an influx of people from those states that were homeless come into the state of Vermont. I think also there are people that are homeless that choose that life. I know that near my store there were people that were living under the bridge, and I know that NECA was coming down with food supplies for them, bringing them potatoes and other food services. And after they left, they would come back, and my neighbor business would find those products sitting in his dumpster. So we also have a lot of mental health issues and a lot of substance abuse issues in not just all populations, but in that population as well. So finding enough money to be able to provide for everybody has been difficult. But as Representative Page said, that Mayor Ufford Chase and others have put together, he has put together a coalition of people that bought an old hotel, motel, and are ready to open up a homeless shelter. That's something that's been sorely lacking in the city of Vermont, city of Newport for a long time. So I think that can be very helpful as well. So I think it's complicated. I think that we have people here that are trying to look out for the homeless population, and we can try to do more, but funds are being, it's difficult to find the funding that needs to be placed in that situation, as well as our education, as well as our housing, as well as everything else that we're trying to provide.
Thank you, Representative Marcotte. Representative Harper.
I don't have too much to add policy-wise from what others have already said, other than to say that, I would like to live my life leading with empathy, and I want that for our state as well. And that I think the bottom line is we need to keep people alive. We need to keep them from freezing. And from the Education Committee, some of the things we're doing that are important is we do track which kids and which families are homeless. So we know that. We know how to subtly get them their services without sort of embarrassing them in front of their peers. We provide universal meals, and there are also other giving closets for all the things that we need. So we are trying from the education part of all of this to get people the things that they need, and we will keep trying that. But the most important thing is I think that we need to lead with empathy.
Thank you, Representative Harple. Representative Wells.
Just a couple comments on that. I know Senator Ingalls hit on some of the big threats out there, the substance abuse and the mental problems. A few years ago, I think if they would have thought things out, $700 million for hotel vouchers, I think, was really a waste of a lot of good money. They should have done something like bought campers or different housing that could have been used for a few years there. We'd still have those to use for the current problem today. And I think there's still, we got to do a better job with our bureaucratic attack here, because I think probably 20-25% of those that have moved in the state, especially during COVID and stuff, are just here to take advantage of our very weak welfare system in this state.
Thank you, Representative Wells. Representative Nelson, would you like to?
They handled it.
Okay. So there's about 15 minutes left, which is for one lengthy question or maybe two smaller questions. So who's up for the next question?
No. Thanks, people. Now we're in trouble.
You will be. Ed Barber. When they passed Act 73 and they put in the new funding formula, they have a section in there that is built in so that towns that were high spending would get a break and they wouldn't see a huge increase in their taxes in any one given year. My question is, when it look at the opposite side of the coin, when we have the town of Derby, Morgan, and Holland, who are seeing their taxes go up in 1 year, just the elementary school taxes will go up $2.6 million, which is 30% more in revenue than it was raised last year. None of that money stays here. It goes to other school districts in Vermont. I don't understand why we would take such a big hit in 1 year when they're protecting the high spenders. We're the model. We're the ones that are doing it right, and we're going to get hit with this big 35% increase in just elementary school education taxes. What can be done about that?
Thank you for the question. Senator Ingalls.
I think there's going to be a lot of people who want to talk about it, so I'm just going to give my take on the question. The foundation formula is something that we've gone to, and as Ed has alluded to, we are mandated to spend all the way up to what that foundation formula is, and then it raises your taxes, and then those monies, we're in effect being a gold town, sending those dollars away. I had to vote against Act 73 because it mandated that 100% that the communities had to spend 100% of those foundation formulas. We are more like at 75%. Where our spending is right now. If that bill was to change to where we could spend 75% of it, that would put us more in line where our spending is right now. Our taxes don't go up. And so I think that's very, very key for me to support Act 73 is to change the way that communities can spend on the foundation formula. If they don't need to spend all the money, then they shouldn't have to spend all the money. They should be able to do with what they need to do, keeping their taxes affordable. But when they're mandated to spend all the money, it does raise your taxes. It does go to, as Rep. Nelson said, CVU, who will raise where they want to raise to because they can. So very important to me for support of Act 73 is to be able to have communities decide what level that they want to spend at and not be damaged by having to spend 100% of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ingalls. Senator Morley.
I really don't have much to add other than I agree with everything Senator Ingalls just really said. And I look forward to, I want to sit down with Representative Harpel, and she's on the Education Committee, and as you can tell, she's an expert in that area. So I obviously something's going to happen. What that is and how it's going to work. We're all going to protect our area. I'm going to look out for healthcare, North Country Hospital and VRH, and obviously we want to take care of our student population in our educational system in the Northeast Kingdom, which is extremely rural. So I look forward to working with the local legislators and Senator Ingalls on obviously trying to bend that curve, reduce the cost of taxes, but I'll be reaching out to Representative Harpel. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Morley. Representative Marcotte.
Ed, I agree with you. It really doesn't make sense. Right now, the way the system works, our schools around here are pretty conservative, have been so for as long as I can remember, where there are other high-spending districts in the state And once Act 60 came in, 68, and we socialized how our education funding is. Our taxes don't reflect what our budgets are. And so the monies that we sent to Montpelier then divvied up, and high spending districts seem to be making out, and we seem to be left in the lurch again, which kind of is interesting because it brings me back to Brigham again, and I don't think there's equity for our schools. And so now here in the funding formula, the same thing is happening in reverse. The high spenders are going to get a break, and our schools up here are going to be required to spend the foundation dollars, which is going to drive up our budgets and drive up our taxes. And so it doesn't make sense to me, and I think we need to, Ways and Means is looking at this. We need to make sure that our schools, that the low spending schools now are protected, and that the high spenders get back into control again and spend what they should be spending, and if they want to spend more, then they will pay for it. I did vote for Act 73. I wanted to see it move forward so that we continue the conversation, but I can tell you that if our schools will be harmed by the foundation formula as it sits now, I won't be voting for that bill. So I think there's more to come on that.
Thank you, Representative Marcotte. Representative Page. Okay. Representative Harpel.
Can we just pass?
Not on this one for you.
I need to grow taller. I am super glad that the Ways and Means Committee is going to be taking a hard look at it, and I'm glad for that question. I voted against Act 73. You know, it does need to be tailored for our rural communities, and it has, you know, it's not a done deal yet, and maybe it won't pass. So I think that this session, we need to take a good hard look at those details and how they really shake out in the end for the Northeast Kingdom and for other rural communities. I think that the intention was some backwards sort of look at equity, that bigger and higher spending obviously means better results, and we do need better results, but I don't think that that is the way to better results. And so I did vote no and will continue to not support a bill that raises our taxes to support Chittenden County and other bigger school districts.
Thank you, Representative Harpel. Representative Wells.
I voted no on that 73 because of two primary reasons. 5 districts, that's just a few as far as that goes, and that didn't make much sense to me. They're still pushing hard in Montpelier to make sure that we have 3 districts to look at. And if they push us into a corner and make us have to do that, I would like to see them do one of 2 things. One, let's build around our tech centers. We got a damn good one up here, just up the road about a mile. We need plumbers. We need that type of folks out there. We're losing a lot of those skill sets. And if they can't build around those 17 buildings there, I would just break it down to use a program like Florida and some other states do. Go individually to the counties. We've got 14 counties, give them X amount of money, and the counties individually run their school system.
Thank you, Representative Wells. Representative Nelson. No, you still got a couple extra minutes there.
I got a couple extra. Act 73. Senator Ingalls and I, we haven't this year yet. I don't know what we've been doing. Busy, I guess, but we would meet in the hallway and in the cafeteria, and we'd share ideas and talk about things. And Act 73 came up, and I went and sat down with Russell, and I said, Russell, my school tells me it's going to be at that time, 25% bump to Derby. Russell says, no, that's right. That's terrible. we've got to vote against this, Nelson. And when it's your party that's bringing it, it was the governor's bill, and they had the whips out and the cattle prods trying to get us all to vote for it. And Ken and I and Russ, for our reasons, stood our ground and said no. And I was told by our then assistant minority leader, Nelson, you need to vote for this. And I said, I can't vote for it. I said, you're going to devastate the people in my community with their taxes. And he was trying to explain to me, no, and down the road it'd be all good. And I said to him, I said, you ever hear the saying that figures never lie? And he said, exactly. This is exactly what we're talking about. I said, well, the rest of that adage is, but liars can figure. So I didn't vote for it. And I support a foundation formula, but at a lower level, much lower level. And then if your communities want to be above it, so be it, be above it. But the Brigham decision started off with a bold promise, and it failed. And it failed because everyone figured how to work around the Brigham decision. So I'd like to see a foundation formula. And then the state of Vermont this year, the governor told all his agencies, you can raise your budgets 3%. Their health care costs have gone up. Their wages have gone up 3%. There's going to be people that are going to be retiring and they're not filling positions at the state level because they're only allowed to go up 3%. At our school budget hearings here, discussions, they came in with numbers much higher than we settled on, didn't they, Wendy? But when we got all around to it, you make decisions. You say, well, I can do without the new fluff tutor this year, and we'll be fine. And at North Country, our class sizes are getting a wee small, but demographics say we're going to gain students here in the next couple of years, and that could help. But we've got to have a standing order where applicable. If a teacher retires, not a band teacher, not an art teacher, because those are one in those programs, but where a teacher retires, where applicable, perhaps we don't fill that position for a time being if we don't need to. We can grow our class sizes within the school a bit. All right.
Thank you. Yeah, Representative Page.
Look, last year, the governor put forward, $100 million to try to keep property taxes down. This year, they're expected to rise something like 12%. Governor has said he's going to put $75 million down to try to lower those property taxes. On the record, I voted for Act 73. And the reason being was I knew, and I didn't receive any pressure. I didn't tell anybody how I was voting or what have you. Nobody twisted my arm. I voted for it because I felt that there were off-ramps where we could kill the bill if we needed to. So that's why I voted for it, and to try to keep property costs down. I think we're all worried about, our property taxes going up and being able to afford to live in this beautiful place. So that's all I want to add.
Thank you. If you can do it in 30 seconds.
Do it in 30 seconds. I can do it in 20 seconds. Pam Ladd's Newport. There is not a shelter in Newport. I'm part of a group that is putting together a warming shelter, which is very different from a real shelter. It offers a space where people can go to be warm between the hours of 8 in the evening and 8 the next morning. It only operates this year it'll only operate between the end of January and April. It is totally volunteer, and it came as a result of an ordinance that was passed in Newport, which was about not allowing people to pitch tents here. So people were given tents because they had no other accommodation, and then they were told you can't stay here. They were going to have to leave town. This group came together and has got this shelter going. It is where the old Thai restaurant was, part of the Bayview Motel. It still needs more volunteer time and energy, and if anybody's interested, contact me afterwards.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Okay. So on that note, this finally concludes the legislative breakfast, the first one in the series. The next one will be February 9th, same bat time, same bat location. I'd like to thank you all for coming and attending. I'd like to special thank NEK-TV, members of the media, the senators and representatives, and all you others who braved the snow to get here, the East Side for the food, and especially, again, Built by Newport and Dave LaForce for sponsoring all of this so we didn't have to take any money out of our pockets. So thank you all again, and have a great day, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.